I will welcome Laura Cozzi. We must start with congratulating you since you are newly appointed Director of Sustainability, Technology and Outlooks at the International Energy Agency. So congratulations to your new job. Now we can't hear you. Let's see if we can unmute.
Thank you so much, Eva.
Thank you, Laura. We would love to hear your speech and the future of heat pumps. The report that came from the IAA in November last year is still very relevant for us. And we know that you will also bring some new figures in. So please, Laura, the stage is yours.
So first of all, let me explain that I arrived at Charles de Gaulle yesterday and my plane had left without me because of an incredible traffic jam with accidents. So really my deepest apologies to the conference organizers. I was very much looking forward to meet Madam Minister, to see my former boss and predecessor, Mechthild Wursdorfer, and all many colleagues that are today in Stockholm. So my really deepest apologies. But without any further ado, I would like really to take you through, in the next 10 minutes, through our latest facts and figures about clean energy transition with the focus on decarbonization of heat, which is today's focus of the meeting. Let me start maybe taking a step back to really take a picture and understanding. We are a very much data-driven organization. Understanding what 2022 has represented for the global energy sector and the global energy transition. So for us, the message is very clear. At the beginning of last year, there were many questions. Is Russia's invasion of Ukraine going to slow down the clean energy transition? Many question marks about a number of issues. But now, a year on, we can certainly say that 2022 has supercharged the global energy transition. Here you see a number of indicators across a range of technologies that all are pointing one direction, upwards, and upwards in a significant manner, going from solar addition, again, breaking records, an increase of 40%. Nuclear additions, again, an incredible increase of 40%, with some countries that not only have started new nuclear reactors, but have actually reversed some of the policies, including in Europe, to extend nuclear lifetime. Heat pump, and I will come back to this later in much more depth, also breaking records, not only in Europe, but globally. And again, electrification with electric cars last year, registering globally 15% of sales, compared with just 5% just 3 years before. Incredible growth. And emerging technologies such as hydrogen coming in also very strongly. Maybe with just one indicator that we have released yesterday that for me is incredibly telling, which is investment in clean energy. We have just released that actually in 2022, $1.7 trillion were invested in clean energy. And this is a ratio of 1.7 to 1 vis-a-vis fossil fuels. This ratio just 5 years ago was 1 to 1. The direction is very clear. There is no doubt we are living the new clean energy economy. If we zoom into decarbonization of heat, I think Sweden is the place to have this discussion. Madam Minister said it earlier. Very simply, Sweden, together with the Nordics, is leading globally on heat decarbonization, having made a lot of right things from policies, having actually industries that have had huge foresight and being global leaders today. With the highest per capita sales in the world of heat pumps, and seeing even at the beginning of this year, even more growth. But if you go beyond Sweden and look globally, last year for us was really a turning point. You have markets such as the United States, where natural gas remains relatively cheap, where we've seen actually sales of heat pumps having overtaken the fossil alternative. Same has happened in France and areas of the world, in Europe including, where heat pumps had historically been lagging behind. I'm thinking about Poland, I'm thinking about Italy, where we are just starting to see some of the very dynamic growth starting to happen with last year, incredible growth. And now, Madam Minister explained very clearly why do we need heat decarbonization. There is, of course, a climate change imperative. There is an energy security imperative. And here I'm going to touch exactly upon that. What we are seeing with the Repower EU and really with the national policies being put in place, that we are on track, we will be on track to increasing very significantly, even much beyond what we have seen in 2022, the sales of heat pumps with a combination of new buildings, but increasingly existing buildings are playing a very important role. What are the implications for natural gas? Of course, we do care as European very much about it, including for the Russian invasion of Ukraine and the stops in flows of Russian gas to Europe. Our expectation is that this deployment of heat pumps will actually reduce very significant gas demand going forward. This, from a policy-making perspective, from an energy security perspective, is hugely important. To give you a very Swedish comparison, by 2025, so we are talking about just 2 years, we would be able to save the equivalent of around a dozen LNG terminals similar to the one Sweden has today. So this is very significant type of reduction in natural gas imports and consumption going forward. Of course, while those are incredibly important at national government level, for consumers, this matters less. Consumers do care very much about affordability. And good news for last year was that we have actually detected surveys around the world, 30 countries having financial incentives for heat pumps covering nearly 70% of heating demand globally. So this has tilted the economic competitiveness vis-a-vis, for example, natural gas boilers in many markets, not all of them. And importantly, these financial incentives have helped bridge the cost gap that still exists in many cases vis-a-vis the fossil alternative. I think there is an important number that I would like many people to have in mind. Our latest calculation shows that actually households that had a heat pump in Europe last year saved an average 900 euros over the year compared to those that had natural gas boilers. This is very significant savings in a year where many of our households have seen an increasing share of their income going to energy bills. Madam Minister mentioned the huge job potential that heat pumps and other heat decarbonization have. Here, focusing on heat pump, you see the global number. We are talking about hundreds of thousands of new jobs. If we focus on Europe, I would like to say that there is an opportunity, but also a challenge here, because the most part of these jobs is installations, and 19 of European countries today are actually seeing already job shortages there. So I think we will hear from the manufacturers and the installers that this is something we should really facilitate at European level to ensure that we really make the most out of this potential. I would like to conclude with something that is becoming increasingly important. Very clearly, decarbonization have gone well beyond fighting climate change. Fighting climate change is hugely important, but at the same time, what we are seeing today is that the array of clean energy technologies that we have today, because of the incredible cost reductions we have seen, go beyond the fight against climate change. These have become fundamentally key energy security instrument, and beyond that, industrial strategies. So competitiveness here matters, and diversification in clean technology supply chain matters. What I'm showing here is for an array of clean energy technologies, which country currently has the largest production of that specific technology. And next to it, the second bar that you see for each of the technologies, you see with the current project pipeline, how the concentration of this technology changes. And what you can see, China has a real dominance across a number of clean energy technologies. You will see here, and I think we need to underline the importance for Europe, for Sweden, for the Nordics. For heat pump, the story is not the same as other important clean energy technologies. There is an important diversification and, in fact, a hedge ahead that many European companies have. The share of those of heat pumps in overall global clean energy technologies is not as concentrated as for other clean energy technologies. And actually, the pipeline that we have seen emerging just over the past year is making the share of EU basically the same as China. It's the only clean tech for which this is true. I think we should be very proud and make sure that there are all the conditions around to maintain this. So a very dynamic sector where we see a lot of things happen, and we think there is a lot of hope going forward. Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Laura, can we just stay in this picture for a moment or two? You show us now the dominance of China, and that it actually looks a little better on the right-hand side than on the left-hand side on the picture. But how can we avoid that the same fate will sort of come to the heat pump industry that actually the solar PV was struggling with? Because these are many of those things we can't really do so much about. It's Chinese policy, so actually, basically.
I think, Eva, this is an excellent question. Europe had actually a leadership in solar PV at the beginning of the year 2000s. But then, for some good reasons, we lost that edge. I would say that there is an important lesson here to take, certainly for heat pumps, but also for other technologies, maybe for wind as well. We have a very strong position on heat pumps. You mentioned, I think, the diversity of technologies within the heat pump sectors plays an important role there. The domestic manufacturing and the advance that we have, we should do really everything to maintain it. Currently, nearly 60% of the sales that occur in Europe are manufactured within Europe. And with the announcement that we have seen, I think Madam Minister mentioned some of them earlier on, we see that even this share will be larger. There is a combined responsibility of policymakers, industries, and citizens alike to ensure that this is maintained going forward.
Thank you so much. I would like the floor now to think of good questions to you, Laura. And please just raise your hand. We have 2 microphones in the room. And don't be shy. Don't be shy. The geopolitical situation, Laura, you mentioned it as one of the critical issues here, of course, in the background of the energy situation we have. But if we look a little bit ahead then, with the electrification of Europe, there are winners and losers in every development, you know. And what do we do about that? What is it that worry you from an IEA perspective here, with the new balances in power? Can you say something about that?
So I think that, of course, there will be winners and losers within the transition. If we focus on the EU for a second, on balance, there are the number of opportunities ahead for the European Union and European countries are much, much larger than in several other countries in the world. I think hugely important work is being undertaken now on ED, in Clean Industrial Act. Repower EU has been and is a centerpiece in which there will be a lot of opportunities emerging going forward. I think here is very much going forward something that you mentioned earlier about narratives and keeping the citizens with us for this transition. There are a number of industrial opportunities within the heat sector, clearly within the impacts that we can take. We are quite positive about being just at the beginning of ripening those fruits.
Thank you. And we will soon hear more about the Net Zero Industry Act and how that will come in. We have a question, so please.
Nora, good morning. And Thomas Novak, European Heat Pump Association, for all the rest of you. It's a pity not to have you here, but we can at least have the exchange online. You mentioned customers, and you mentioned that we have to bring them on board. We have identified that an affordable electricity price, and especially a very low price ratio between gas and electricity prices, is paramount for end users to want heat pumps because they can save in heating costs. Are you monitoring how member states are addressing that topic? And could you even show, maybe not now, but on your website, an overview of which member states have a favorable price energy ratio for electricity versus gas? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Thomas. Laura, the pricing.
I think Thomas.
Yes.
Yeah, Thomas, very nice to hear you and see you, and likewise, very sorry I couldn't be there. I think Thomas is, as always, pointing to one of the key critical enablers that we are seeing for heat pump deployment and in general decarbonization of heat. We have actually identified 3 of these critical enablers, and the right pricing, gas versus electricity, is an absolute must. Are we monitoring this? Yes, actually, I invite you next Friday to our website, because we are actually showing how prices and tariffs and supports have changed across European countries and globally. I can anticipate that there have been some progress in terms of getting the prices right. More needs to be done. It's not uniform throughout Europe, but I think that the right combination of affordability measures vis-a-vis heat pumps in particular, and the right tariffs are going to be absolutely essential in the success.
May I do a follow-up on that one, since I heard this morning on Swedish public radio the situation in Germany, and it's quite sort of heated, and we will hear more about it later. I was wondering, when it comes to price, and when we hear those citizens in Germany saying, honestly, we can't afford this. We can't afford this. This is what they say, and this is what get sort of air room in the radio. So I was thinking, how also connected to the question of attitudes, Laura, how we sort of bring people in, and how the policy measures can actually bridge this gap between what people can do themselves and what is good for the long run future.
I think there are two important pieces here. One, and I think Madam Minister touched upon it earlier, I think the right information and accessible information for citizens is crucial, so that we make sure that citizens don't get too technical information, but understand easily what are the technology options available. I will not make an example, but there are certain cities and countries in Europe in which today, if you want to convert to a heat pump, you simply cannot do it, because either the utility doesn't allow you to do it, or because you don't have the information, or the barriers to get it done are just simply too high. So there has to be this enabler condition put in place. The second, which is related to information, but is also very simply related to economics, is really to make people understand with facts. So last year, average household in Europe that had an heat pump was saving 800 euros. I think these facts speak then more than anything else.
Yeah, you see it on your bill. But also before you see it on your bill, make it easier to actually convert with knowledge, information, and also other enablers. We will come back to that during the day. Thank you so much. Are there one short question more to Laura? Otherwise, we will. Thank you so much for bringing this knowledge and all the figures and being with us. And we hope to see you next time.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Laura Cozzi.